In the recent sell-off of equities in South Africa, the banking sector was severely hurt by extreme negative sentiment when the sell-off of those shares pulled the valuations back to, according to our minds, very attractive levels. Of course, the immediate response of those who don't like banks as an investment would argue that banks will well be a victim of the economic fallout as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. So the question that they ask is, are the banks strong enough to survive this particular difficult era? Now, the one measure that we look at to determine whether the balance sheet is strong enough to survive a period of subdued business activity for the banks is the so-called capital adequacy ratio. Now, regulations will dictate that banks should have a capital adequacy ratio of 9%. If you look at the ratio across the big four banks, you will find that all four of those banks, their capital adequacy ratio is well above the required 9%. In fact, the strongest of them all is Standard Bank with a capital adequacy ratio of 14%. So therefore, we would argue that there's enough room for operational disappointment for the banks before their balance sheet would force them to tap capital markets for additional capital. So we do think that those balance sheets are strong enough to see them through these tough times.